In session.
All in favor? Okay, here we go. So under other business, the RCMP Memorandum of Understanding.
I'll speak to that quite quickly. I've been working with the Solicitor General to make sure all the documents they need from us as being an authorized employer for a peace officer in place. They've recently changed some things. They would like us to have a memorandum of understanding between us and the RCMP that outline a few of the rules when they work together. So that's what I've put in the package. We've drafted one. How that would work is if there's no major objections to it, and I would hope there's not, I support what's in the MOU, I would take it to Sergeant Wright. He would then go over it, and if he's prepared and comfortable with it, then I would bring it back for you to have a motion of approval at that time. Just, I don't want to do a motion now and then they take exception to something and we need to amend it.
Sure.
So he would have to send it up to K Division anyway. Now, they've seen 100 of these, so it's not new to them. We just have to get ours formally done. So if there's no great exceptions to what it says, then I'll proceed with that.
Jeff,
Yeah,
can I ask a question regarding that? Not so much regarding the MOU, but regarding the obligation of the RCMP. It says under 3.1, upon the town or the peace officer requesting authorization to access local RCMP radio communication, etc.
Yep.
So
They will currently deny that.
exactly. So
yeah.
why is that written in there?
Because we left it in we left it in because there are currently pilot projects happening across the province to allow for direct communication
all
between
right.
detachments.
Fair
so
enough.
if that goes through, we don't have to amend the MOU.
Okay, all right.
That was the
Fair
theory
enough.
there.
I just was
I
curious.
thought you might catch that, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I do read.
Talk about the linear assessment.
That's a big one.
You bet. So, linear assessment model. I'll try and put this in a nutshell. The province is looking to amend the way they assess linear assessment. Now, just by saying that is quite interesting because the province has always determined that assessment was third party from the political body and tried not to mess with how things are assessed. They mess with the rates they're charged, but not with the assessment. Now the province is saying we want to control the methods of assessment. Now, there has been some control to it previously. I should pull it up so I have my numbers right, but essentially what's happened is when there was new linear assessment in a community, so oil, wind, distribution transmission lines, rail, any of those types of things.
Yeah.
So this is largely what the rurals are dealing with. There was a construction cost based on some regulation, and then they depreciated it down about 17%, and it stayed at that value for a number of years.
Yeah.
And that's what the MDs taxed it at. What they're saying now is the assessment they're proposing is really based on a normal depreciation model. That it starts at its construction value and it depreciates down, and after so many years, I think it bottomed out at 16% or 15%. And so the counties are saying, well, we're going to receive much less assessment on linear taxation. I have an opinion on this a bit that I'm concerned about messing with the assessment of it, but it actually is in many ways moving to a more true valuation model based on depreciation. Right. It's just it impacts the MDs very negatively. It doesn't impact us very much, although we have some linear, but not much. In fact, our biggest linear customer is us with our distribution system. Mm-hmm. We're our biggest linear in town. So what AUMA put out was, here's the models that they're proposing, here's the impacts on the communities. For us in the community, it was about an $8,000 annual touch, but it's actually deeper than that for us. So there are a number of models in the province that the funding is based on assessment, and the police funding being one of them, I would point out. So police funding is made up of population, assessment per capita, or total assessment actually based on the education requisition, and then some discounting variables. If all of that assessment goes away from the rurals, well then guess what we have to do? We have to pick up our share of it now as the urban, because it's gone. And that will now increase our costs where it's based on assessment, because the overall pool of assessment is set to drop dramatically across the province.
Yeah.
So our piece of the overall is much bigger now. Well, I shouldn't say much, but relatively bigger now than it used to be. Now, I also mentioned education. That's another place where we're going to get hit quite hard. Education requisition is based on total assessment of the municipality, and so our rurals pick up the lions, no, I shouldn't say the lions, but a larger share of education assessment. If all that assessment comes out of the system, guess who gets to pick up a larger share of education requisition? And it's us. And they've given some numbers in here that they're projecting 4% in year one, 7% the year after that, in increased education requisition. So it has consequences for us. I've been curious about this model they've chosen because I think, and AUMA is also frustrated with it because they feel that there's other ways the province could promote the industry without removing assessment out of those municipalities. Okay. For me, it goes back to, I oversimplify a complex thing, I recognize it. But instead of removing the assessment from those MDs, simply ratchet down any of their provincial transfers based on their assessment. So we looked at this a couple months ago. If MD of Opportunity is at $400,000 per capita in assessment and the town of Cardston is 80, quit giving us the same amount of provincial transfers per capita. They don't need it. They can get $400,000 per, their ability to raise funds is 5 times what it is for us. And I think there was different ways to do it, but they don't seem to be entertaining it. Also keep in mind there's massive lobby behind this. This isn't just a government generated initiative. There's massive industry lobby behind this to reduce that assessment. And so AUMA sees some deficiencies in the model, obviously, and that it's flawed, and it will tend to impact the urbans more than they're anticipating. They're just seeing it as an impact to the rurals and losing assessment, which is true. You know my level of sympathy for linear assessment in the rurals, but the point is this does spill over to us both on education requisition and policing requisition. We will feel the brunt of it as well. Not as acutely as the rurals, but we will certainly potentially looking at a 5 or 6% hit just even in 2021 alone if it's implemented. So every time we get hit with one of these dang hits of 5 or 6%, it essentially eliminates your opportunity as a local council to have any increases to cover inflationary pressures on our operations. We're always increasing our taxation to cover inflationary increases imposed upon us by another level of government.
Yeah.
It's frustrating as heck.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I am wondering if there is a desire of council to write a letter of support to AUMA for their position on our behalf.
AUMA is asking that you write a letter to your MLA and CC them on it. That's the request.
Right.
There's a template in this.
Yeah, they've provided a template, correct.
And I really honestly believe that maybe it's a time to be a little bit more political on this one because we are impacted. The government is far away from us, needs to know that 5-6% is a lot for us. And that this year, what's going to be next year and the year after?
Well, you have to manage the entire police funding,
I was going to
60% or something.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
The starters and the increases, and by the time 5 years down, we are 30% up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
Councillor Selk.
I think it's also an opportunity to tell AUMA that we agree with you. We're tired of the provincial government ignoring everything that you suggest to them
but
that would
that's
be
another
reasonable
issue.
for the municipalities. Because
Right.
they do provide them with reasonable options, and that the government completely ignores it and does their own thing, and we get impacted by it.
So
Make a recommendation to
I
write
will
the letter.
go
No,
ahead.
I'll make that recommendation that we
Yeah,
send a
you were
letter
on that body.
Endorsement.
Okay.
to our MLA in support of AUMA's position on the assessment model.
All in favor? Okay.
So I'll bring the draft to next week and then we'll send it from there.
So anything from the delegations, any business arising from those delegations? I think we've got that sorted out there.
No,
The flag?
maybe a thank you to both of them for their work.
Yeah.
It's been great.
I really like the blue wheel model. It'd be the Blue Ridge Colony.
All right, moving on. Rolling along here.
Or that guy.
Sorry. So,
You
cor-
good?
Get to move on.
correspondence in the essence of time, Councillor. Yeah, there we go. So, Alberta Justice and the Solicitor General update. It's about e-ticketing, right? For
Yeah, so as of next year, our peace officers must use the e-ticketing system. So we're getting quotes on, that always comes with cost, of course. Of course it does. So we're working on quotes for the.
another
budget
3%.
cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Anything from Tanya Thorne's update?
Correspondence.
She's
She's very
she's
thorough.
seeking re-election, and I personally wholeheartedly support her. She's doing a good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very thorough.
I was going to say,
Anything?
we cannot thank her enough for all the hard work she does on our behalf. She really does.
Okay. So the Alberta Environment and Parks report, Jeff?
Oh, that's the
Just
water.
real quick,
Yes.
this was something I wasn't aware was even happening. Alberta Environment did an assessment of all the water plants and their resiliency to climate change, and had some recommendations for us to look at in the future. We were considered a moderate risk of the impact of climate change. So they have a few suggested improvements for our waterworks system. Some Bart agrees with, some he doesn't. For example, they recommended putting in generators at our St. Mary's and Lee Creek intake, which you can see is reasonable on its face. But we have such large storage, there's rarely going to be an event that the power is out for 30 days where we can't pump. You know, something like that. We can store for almost two and a half more months if we go on rations. So he's saying it doesn't make sense to spend $100,000 and put fuel in these generators when we have them turned off for 2 weeks at a time anyway. So little things like that, we'll certainly take the feedback and look to apply things where appropriate.
Jeff, isn't that solar system taking care of those pumps too?
Well, it's offsetting their yes, it's
Consumption.
offsetting them for sure.
So
But
we
it's
shouldn't
not
have it,
running them.
but
not running them.
but it could, couldn't it?
No, we can never direct it
No.
that specifically.
You couldn't, eh?
No, we wouldn't have the ability to do that.
I think the recommendations is moderate.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we'll
Just keep those
Okay,
ponds full.
thank you. Anything from the STARS letter? Or the multiculturalism and status of women?
Right here.
Just a nomination award? So bylaws and AGM, that's all going virtual.
I tried to
It's,
read through that, I'm gonna be honest, council, that was rough. Like,
Did you go to sleep like I did?
holy cow.
I mean, all the one with the red stripes, oh,
That
gee.
was a slog.
okay,
I think, so my opinion to you would be, I didn't see anything that I objected to within their amendments. I don't think you as a council need to take any position on the amendments they're proposing. That's what I
No.
would say.
all right, and then just the AUMA EMS dispatch, the changes that they're not too happy with that, and
Oh, never mind.
so the elected
How's it gonna
officials,
affect us?
The same as everybody else.
well, everybody else, there's only gonna be three dispatch
Centers.
locations.
Just real quick,
Dispatch
Councillor
out.
Sept and I went to Lethbridge here a couple of years ago with their dispatch center.
Yeah.
They actually know where Mud Hill is and all these local features are. They will not know them in Red Deer, so that's gonna cause an issue when they're trying to dispatch
Right.
out in the rural areas.
Sure.
Are they still looking for a lake for Moses Lake?
I don't know,
Do they know where Lumpy Butte is, or?
yeah, exactly.
Lumpy Butte.
Yeah, there's one.
Well, I'm supposed to get,
I know where that
What do we do about
Yeah.
that?
I'm supposed to
There
get
is a
use
Lumpy Butte.
positioning.
It's out here by Wolford.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Well, you
I
can see
mean,
them.
they're going to use better technology. That's the whole idea. Let's hope that it does work.
Is it beyond the point we can do anything about it?
No,
Yeah, it's a
Gone.
decision that's made by AHS, yeah.
The only thing is that it's good for the EMS people who work out of Cardston, but the way this dispatch system works now, they're dispatched from all over the friggin' place, so you'll have people from
Yeah.
the Crow's Nest Pass that are dispatched to
could be
to Lumpy Butte, and
Yeah.
they're not gonna know where that is.
Yeah.
That's right.
Moses
Oh,
Lake.
go ahead,
Well,
Councillor.
just because I actually had to call 911. A man had fallen and broken his hip, and I was with him. and we sat in the snow for half an hour, actually about 15 minutes, and nobody had come, and we were 2 blocks away from the ambulance bay. And so I happened to have a direct line, so I called a friend, and they were there within 2 minutes. So now it had been half an hour, and the gentleman was going into shock, and it was scary, but like, we're talking life-threatening here. Like, same with Peyton Olson,
Yeah.
when she had cut her foot,
off,
both
yeah.
feet off, or the one part of the leg and the
right.
other foot. They couldn't find her. They sent the ambulance on a wild goose chase. Wild-
Chase.
Well, goose chase.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Trying to find her, and it ended up that luckily, when she had fallen off the lawnmower, she was able to grab her cell
Her
phone,
cell phone, yeah.
and she called them and was like, "I can see you driving past me." Like, it's a concern.
Yes.
It's people's lives we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Well, we all need to have that direct line to the ambulance bay here,
That's what they need.
We used to.
bypass 911.
Anyway,
2012.
yeah.
Okay,
It matters.
anything from Dan Root,
If
elected?
any of you are interested in that, let me know. If you're registered, there's something to look at.
There is a course on finances, this very first one. That's a course that I took, but it was a fairly long course when I took it
I haven't
years
used my
back.
$2,000.
It's a very
I
good
bet you.
course,
Nobody had.
but
No.
whatever.
And the Alberta Municipal Affairs Annual Report, 200 pages or so.
Page turner.
Just some nice
Memorize all.
bedtime reading.
Yeah, for about 5 minutes.
That's red tape.
Anything else? So that's the end of our agenda.
Oh, you got closed session stuff.
Yeah, no. So we'll thank Channel 32 and we'll look for a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go in closed session.
All in favor? Thank you.